to the show.
Just make you feel good. Make you just want to go home, take a nice shower, and then put your shea butter on. Be nice and nourished. Make sure your hair and your scalp is good to go. Make sure your face is, blemish free. Make sure the waves don't swim, Be like 2 weeks removed from that. We actually like a month removed from our haircut.
You ain't had a haircut in a month?
Yeah, bro, cause my
you had an edge up though, ain't you?
Nah, I ain't had nothing, bro. I ain't had nothing, cause my
yeah,
barber.
Like a month.
My barber. It's been a month, cause it's like low, and then I got the ball fade, so of course it's not gonna grow like substantially in a month, but now my barber had his son had a kid, so he closed off his schedule when I needed that cut.
But what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Infusion Breakdown Show. As always, it's your boy Joshua Freeman. To my left, I got Mr. Bryan Carey. To my right, I got Mr. Desmond Tillman. Hope you guys are doing well. Remember the timestamps in the description of the video. Remember, click on it. Let us know what you want, okay? But the question I want to talk to you guys about today is emotions. We're going back to emotions. Are emotions rational or irrational? What do you guys think? Comment below. Let us know, okay? But yeah.
What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah, what do you think?
You want me to go?
Yeah, we do. I think we do need you to go.
Sheesh, Louise. I think emotions are rational internally. Yes, but externally I feel they're irrational. I say that because internally I feel how we feel based on our emotions, that's genuine in itself, because that's logical. I feel that's genuine in itself. But as far as what we do with our emotions, say for instance, I feel upset, so I feel upset because I have to do homework. That's irrational, because doing homework, I have to do that to learn, you know what I mean?
Not necessarily. Well, not arguing the fact that you don't have to do your homework, but I'm saying the fact that you could be upset because your homework could be perfectly rational. So I think I agree with you on the grounds the emotions, they are rational, because going back to our episode we did with AJ and Tanner, so I was thinking that my definition of emotions were
you really call him something different every time. I was like, who's AJ? But keep going.
Yeah, he's like 12 different names. But so emotions, they're simply an internal compass that allows us to navigate the social realm and the world around us. So I think of emotions, they how we know how we feel about things. So if something happens, your emotional reaction is an honest reflection of how you feel about a situation. Now, acting out those emotions directly without properly thought and processing things, that's not rational in itself, but the existence of emotions are. So I think of emotions in terms of a thermometer. So it'll give you a reading, and it reacts based upon the temperature, the external condition. Whatever happens, it causes a influx of, I guess it gets warmer or cooler. But if you look at someone who's actually well regulated and actually takes time to process their emotions properly and formulate a proper response, that's more akin to a thermostat. That's acting rationally based upon your emotions, which are rationally based.
Okay.
Turn my mic up now. I'm gonna say that emotions are rationally irrational.
How'd you arrive to that conclusion?
Hate.
You say hate?
Hate.
What do you mean?
Think about it. They're rationally irrational because what makes sense to you in your mind, what you deem rational, i.e. hate crimes, make perfect sense, but to society, it's literally just your definition but combined together.
I was about to say
my definition and his definition.
No, he says he thinks that emotions internally are rational, but externally they're irrational, which just means that emotions are rationally irrational, because I don't think you can necessarily separate the two. Like, you can try and separate the two to try and define it, but when it comes to define it in the sense of validating why you feel that way, but just because you try and validate it to make you feel good for feeling that way doesn't necessarily means it's a good thing.
But isn't that the differentiation I got at what I said about acting it out versus opposed to feeling it?
So then I think you can arrive at the conclusion that they're rationally irrational as well. But
this is no fun, man.
I think it is. I think it is fun because.
Well,
no.
No.
I don't think we all are agreeing, because what I'm gonna say is like when it comes to like hate crimes, for example, and I don't think we're all agreeing because we're all gonna use different examples, and I think we're gonna like learn that we kind of disagree based off of each example. So when you look at hate crimes, El Paso, for example, dude passionately felt that way about Mexicans, but externally, how we look at it, we look at that like no matter what race, what color, no matter what, it should never push you to the point where you feel like you need to murder senselessly because somebody looks that way.
So you're saying his passion was rational?
Yeah.
But the fact that he decided to
act on it
is irrational. Basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying though at the same time is like we can look at how he internally felt at the time though and still say that it's irrational. That's why I'm saying it's like it's rationally irrational.
Why do you say how he felt at the time is irrational? Exactly.
Because he didn't take time to factor in logic.
But I think time comes with rationality though.
You said time comes with rationality.
Rationality comes with time, basically. Like throughout time, you can rationalize as far as I'm trying to think. Throughout time, you can rationalize. Oh wait, I was wrong. This is how it's supposed to be. You know what I mean?
But I mean, he was 22 years old. He's 22 years old. He had a lot of time.
I'm not just talking about him. I'm talking about like
we can talk about anybody. Though.
Okay. As far as him, what are you saying? Is you saying that he? Well, okay. Repeat what you said. Are you asking a question?
No, I was saying.
Okay. Okay, never mind.
No, go ahead.
No. I'm trying to think because you said it took time for him to. I forgot what you said actually. Never mind.
It sounded like something you were saying.
No. So you said no. You didn't say he took time, but you said something about I can't even.
Who said it?
He didn't say it.
This man.
What do you mean?
Y'all going back and forth about who said what.
Forget it. I don't know. Let's see. Are emotions rational or irrational?
I mean, because you feel the way you feel for a real reason.
Yeah.
There's a definite methodology how you arrive to that emotion.
Yeah.
For example,
but you're saying it's irrational.
I think it's rationally irrational.
I mean, I agree with them on the basis. So look at a small child, for example. So Lucas, I don't know if he has any fears. Is he afraid of the dark?
No, he's not. But he's like afraid of like stepping down on stuff.
Right. So there's a reason he must have fell or something like that, or he doesn't feel comfortable doing so. But from the perspective of an adult, we know that the stairs aren't scary. You can walk down stairs, up and down stairs all day. So it's the same thing illustrated to the point, minus the fact of there was hatred factored in. Fear is also an emotion, and that illustrates that perfectly. Because you look at stuff like as a child, for example, we were all afraid of dumb stuff like the dark, Chucky dolls. Josh, what were you afraid of?
Are you saying the dark? Are you saying that's irrational?
What?
Him being afraid of stepping?
No, I think it's perfectly rational.
Oh, okay.
But how he was saying was, from his perspective, it's personally rational. Whereas if you look at it as like, there's really nothing to be afraid of, then
it's irrational.
It's irrational. It's
because you genuinely. You're looking at other people's
but that's what you were saying.
Are you?
I want to make sure that you're the right one, not Desmond or composite Desmond. So, but you were the one who said that rationality comes with time, right?
Yes.
So, isn't that a perfect illustration for that? For the fact that as a child you may be afraid of those things, but once you mature and you understand that these things aren't scary, you can overcome. For example,
he was looking at it through. Well, I don't forget who said it, but he was looking at it through the view of the other person.
Yeah.
But you saying that's irrational in its view. I understand through Lucas' point of view of yes, this is rational that I can step down and I'll be scared now. But as you get older, like that was crazy. I understand that, but you're talking about as far as other person viewing it as he's stepping down. That's irrational. You know what I mean?
He's scared to step down.
Yeah, he's scared to step down. So that's irrational.
From the outside, you can say that because you might not understand that person's methodology or their how they arrived at that conclusion because you don't know someone's story.
Okay. I think we're on the same wavelength. God, we just get into that different.
I feel like we are. We just don't want to admit it.
We're
trying to find little ways to diverge.
Rationality. I don't know.
So, what were you afraid of when you grew up, Desmond?
I don't know, man. That was a long time ago. What was I afraid of? I don't know, man, because I was a bad kid.
You was?
Yeah, I was a bad.
I mean, bad kid's still afraid of something.
If you're a bad kid, then I guess you're just afraid of getting beatings. Nah, I guess there's one thing I can
I
really
don't think you will be bad if you're afraid of getting beatings.
Oh, trust me, it's a.
You just don't. It's kind of like crime and punishment.
Yeah.
The likelihood of getting punished is what gets you. Not if you think you can get away with it, that's not gonna stop you.
You still gonna do it. you roll the
I know,
dice,
just,
man.
I was just kids. I know.
So I guess you could say one thing that I was scared of was my dad used to be able to like flip his eyelids up.
You was scared of that?
You never seen nobody do that?
Yeah. My nephew.
Like, yeah, bro. I used to be petrified of that.
Really? Why?
It's the scariest thing I've ever seen. Like I to this day, I really don't like scary movies.
Well, you don't like movies, period.
I actually love movies. I actually love movies, but I don't watch them today.
Okay.
Like I don't watch them today because obviously my attention span isn't what it used to be. But I do love like good movies. Like if you come to my house, if you come to Sydney's house, my house.
So you're a movie connoisseur.
Yeah, I have a decent amount of.
I ain't talking about the Friday anthology.
Okay, I mean I got that, but like it's that ain't the only thing.
Did you say what you was afraid of?
I was afraid of really strange things. So I remember I had recurring nightmares, and I feel like most of my fears were acted out through dreams. So I would have these dreams where I would be walking through the mall and it'd be like nothing but mannequins. And then as I was walking, the mannequins would start moving, and that would just creep me out. And then I would have this other recurring nightmare where I was in a vehicle. Let's say me and my dad were going somewhere, and my dad would get out the car. And every time he would get out the car would start driving. I would just be taken someplace, and the car was just driving by itself. Those are recurring nightmares I had. So the stuff that I was afraid of wasn't necessarily objects or real tangible things. These were concepts that I feel like I haven't, to this day, I still don't feel like I've understood what exactly the dream was. Because I do believe that there's a lot of truth in dreams. They're trying to reveal things to us subconsciously that our conscious mind isn't currently aware of. And I haven't got to the root of those yet.
That makes me want to pull my take back. I think emotions are simply rational.
Emotions are rational?
Yeah. And I don't think you can tie irrationality to it, because once you tie irrationality to it, that's logic. Because you've actually sat there and you've broken down why it felt that way and if it made sense. Emotions don't make sense in the moment. It's just how you feel.
Wait, did you say they're simply rational or irrational?
They're simply rational.
Why aren't they irrational? Exactly.
Why aren't they irrational? Yeah. Because it's how you feel in the moment. You haven't. I deem it as rational because in order for something to be irrational, it had to be rational at some point. So you go from point A to point B. In order for you to deem something irrational, you have to apply logic. Because emotions are raw in the sense, and you haven't applied logic to it, it's impossible for it to be irrational.
I think the fact that you're acting in a way that's genuine to yourself, like if you're angry and if you yell at me right now, you were genuinely angry. You weren't being disingenuous to yourself. That in itself is enough to constitute rationality with me. Yeah. I'm not saying it meant to be. It's definitely it's a logical thing to do. Yeah. You shouldn't, if you really want to convey your point to a person and try to communicate or show them that, hey, this hurt me, the way to do it isn't to yell at them. That's illogical in itself.
Like, think about how many people do things to hurt people, which is completely rational in the moment, but then they feel guilty once they actually sit back and think about everything hindsight.
But does that mean overall it's really rational?
I think it's possible.
I think it's in the moment rational but unjust.
Why you say that exactly?
I feel like it's rational but unjust because your moral compass could prevent you from doing something that you know is unjust without tying in necessarily emotions.
And I think you have to observe it on a point by point basis, because the way that you behave and the way that you think at, let's say, like, look at the timestamps of a video, for example. So at 35 seconds in, if you compare that to someone's lifetime timeline, you can feel differently as you did at that point in time as you do 15 minutes down there.
Yeah. Like, think about who's going to watch this video. The first 4 or 5 minutes, we didn't know where we were going to go. And I think as we display each other's take on it, it allowed me to diverge. And it allowed me to sit here and say to myself, well, no, in order for something to be irrational, it had to have been rational at some point. You just don't get irrational thought.
Mm-hmm. And you're a different person, and you'll be a different person in 5 minutes than you will be from now. So through those 5 minutes, anything can happen. You could encounter something else, and through the course of a conversation or a dialogue like this, it could change your perspective, and you can say, hey, maybe I shouldn't have done that, or maybe this is wrong, and process things differently, change your entire outlook or perspective on life. We change from second to second. Not the same person ever.
I got you. Do you wait? So you agree with him?
Yeah. I said what I said. For me to constitute saying
because he switched his answer.
For me,
originally agree with him. That's
yeah,
what
I say emotions, they are rational. Yeah, but for me to just say I agree with them, that means I have to play back everything in process and make sure I agree on point by point.
I think we are here because we haven't necessarily like displayed why emotions are irrational, whereas you flat out said internally they're rational, but externally they're irrational.
I think that's a simplification.
Yeah, very, very simplification. Whereas we're saying like the mere thought, I'm sorry, the mere feeling of an emotion is a rational feeling. Once you apply logic to it, that deems applying logic is essentially the act of rationalizing.
Yeah.
And through the act of rationalizing, you label it rational or irrational. Mm-hmm. But if you are feeling something in that moment, it is still rational until you make it irrational.
Okay.
You get me?
Yeah, I got you.
Like it's really, and I say that because when you make something rational to irrational or rational thought and maintaining rational, that's what brings in the morality of a just action or an unjust action.
Oh, okay.
Like if you feel something in the moment because it's the heat of the moment thing, and then you actually sit back and then you think and you rationalize, that's a just action. The ability to rationalize is a just action. Right, because if you feel it, I'm trying to separate the two. Like I'm trying to just sit here and say like feeling something in itself is rational. What you choose to do after that determines if it's truly rational or irrational. Like incest is obviously irrational, but you see it as a rational thought in the moment. It's something that you want to do. Like it's something that you thought about. I got to do it.
Okay.
Not defending it. Okay. But then you have somebody that comes in and they rationalize like, okay, I see why you feel this way.
I don't.
But you got to have like some people that like somebody has to understand why they feel that way and then still sit here and say like, this is why you don't do it. Like you can't have a rational irrational conversation based off of ignorance, because then it's just going to be like, I felt this way, it's right. I feel this way, it's wrong. You have to have somebody that can. Cause I mean, think about it. If you have people that are like that, then there's never going to be therapists. There's never going to be psychiatrists. If you don't have somebody,
there's a need for that.
Yeah, like if you don't have anybody that can diverge in and bring in the just versus unjust in the middle of a rational irrational conversation, then you're just going to have far right versus far left.
Exactly. Okay, but to your point, I feel like there would have been a better example to demonstrate that property, because even that in itself is a outlier. It's an extreme situation.
But you have that view because you've rationalized your view on it.
Sure.
Not to confuse you. I know I should have used something a lot more simpler, because people are going to say like incest. What the?
Yeah, something that you could at least justify either way a little bit.
Yeah.
Versus something that most people would agree, the general consensus is that's just nasty. That's just wrong.
Yeah, I guess we could say like road rage. Road rage that turns violent. You feel completely justified to feel the way you do in the moment. But then you think about it and you're like, it's not even worth my time. You rationalize. Or you feel the way you do in the moment. You get out the car because you get into a fender bender and now you're ready to whoop somebody's ass.
Okay, so...
Are you an aggressive driver?
I used to be.
Okay.
I want to hear it because you got a rebuttal. No. I want to hear it, man.
I was going to ask, so someone flicked me off when I was driving over here. Is that rational?
What did you do to constitute that?
I was just driving in front of him. I was going to speed. No, I wasn't.
Nah, you a damn lie. Every time I leave, yes, every time I leave,
I was actually not speeding because he was on my ass, and I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing? So I went to 70. You know, I'm usually like 75, 80.
You were like 85.
So you dropped it down to 70?
Yeah, I dropped it down. Like, why is this guy on my ass? Like, I was just, you know how Virginia traffic, everything, all the lanes are most likely clogged, so he can't get by. So he's like, I see him on my ass. I'm just sitting there, and he finally gets by. He goes like,
yo,
I was like,
the same thing almost exactly happened to me on the way back from work the other day. And so I was going actually, like you said, plus 70. And then the speed limit was like, what, 55?
It was like, exactly,
yeah. And so then I happened to look over when they get over in the other lane, and the guy's putting his finger up at me. And I'm just like laughing and shaking my head like, what, why are you so upset? Like, what did I do? I was driving above the speed limit. You were getting in the other lane, but you're on my ass. What's up?
You saying that's rational because of how he felt?
Yeah.
Well, the way he felt was rational.
So what? I had a road rage incident this morning. So I was.
What you say used to be?
You said, am I an aggressive driver?
Okay.
So I had a road rage incident this morning because I was on 464 and the lanes merged from 3 to 2. So I was going about 65 and the right lane was like clear, whereas like the left lane, because it's the zipper lane, people tend to back up. So I was probably about 50 feet, and in the car, no turn signal just cuts in front of me. Mm-hmm. So like I have to slam on my brakes, and then the left lane starts moving again, and he turns his turn signal on. So I'm like, I need to get in the left lane. So I'm gonna throw this thing in second gear, and I'm gonna just get over. I felt it was completely rational in the moment because he cut me off. Now I'm gonna take your spot. But when I sit back and I think about it, I could have caused an accident. I'm rationalizing.
But
he
I still feel like overall it's still irrational. Once at the bigger picture is it's still irrational.
It is irrational.
But you're saying it's rational in the moment.
It's rational in the moment.
It's not enough time to process that.
Like we established, the ability to rationalize is to sit back and look at something with logic and deem it just or unjust. Emotions in itself is what you feel in the moment, regardless. Emotions is what you feel in the moment, absence of logic.
Okay. Yeah. So I thought of a way to illustrate this to you. So if I just reach over and smack you in the face, right, and capture your reaction at a split second, like a millisecond after my hand made contact, right? That is your rationale. You reacted that way. You're angry.
Okay.
Now, what you do afterwards, you might strike me back.
Are you saying that's irrational?
I mean, given that would be rational.
I was about to say, that's still rational.
That's definitely rational.
Because you just smacked me.
But then you're going to sit back and think like, was that a rational or irrational thought? Like, yeah.
Not everybody does that. Like, I understand what you're talking about. I know you're going to go into it. Everybody doesn't think logically. Yeah. Okay, I got you. Win.
But I'm saying, just the fact that you feel it. If you were to encapsulate that moment in time at that given point and capture the emotion, versus if you had sat there 5 minutes and then thought about, okay, well,
I'm about to fuck this nigga up. I'm probably gonna fuck this nigga up. Yeah. So like that.
And I think one thing, like, we could tie it in to make this like something more enjoyable for viewers is falling in love is not like an irrational thing. I don't think it's something that it's something that we complicate because we try to make sense of it instead of just understanding that that's how we feel in the moment.
Falling in love is irrational.
No, it's irrational. I think it's a rational thing because it's what we organically and genuinely feel.
Love is a rational thing?
It's a rational thing because it's what we feel in the moment.
Falling in love.
Yeah, falling in love. Falling in love and being in love, I feel like, are rational thoughts because it's what you genuinely feel in the moment. I feel that as we try and justify.
So what if you think you love him and then later on, are you saying you just? Or how is that? How are you? How's that work?
I feel like what differentiates between love versus lust is the mind. Like, I feel like as you look for things to be wrong,
your hormones. But keep going.
It could be hormones. I think as you look for things to be wrong, that turns it into like, yeah, I'm attracted to this person, but not in the way that necessarily benefits me.
Do you actually care about the person?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like when it's 100% like genuine, it's definitely moral. It's definitely we're doing moral, or what are we doing?
Rational.
Our
emotions rational.
It's definitely it's rational, and I think what either changes it from irrational or keeps it rational is how we like morally look at the situation, how we look at people. Because how you look at people is, I mean, it could be a thing of morality as well. Like, do you see each other as equals, or are you like kind of looking like, oh, well, they don't have this or they don't have that, and you kind of bring tangible items into the concept of what love is instead of love just being.
Either one of those is still rational. Because why do you have the outlook?
Say it again.
Either one of those reactions is irrational. So if you look
you're saying it's irrational.
No, they are rational.
They are rational.
So if you're looking at a perspective of saying that, okay, well, if this person doesn't make X amount of money, like, so there's a reason you're saying that you must value financial, being well off. So therefore, that's why you feel that you prioritize that person's financial status. Not saying that that's always something that should be at the utmost of your priorities, but there's a reason.
While I agree with that, I think that if you're going to use that example, then somebody that is of financial status is not going to, and it happens. I get it happens, but I don't think they're going to go for somebody that's not. They're not going to necessarily open themselves up to the opportunity to fall in love with somebody that does not have the same status.
That's a lie.
I said no. I said it happens, but I said
it happens more often than not, because if you look at the different kinds of occupations that men and women do. So, for example, an engineer makes more than a teacher does. What gender is more often than not engineers? What gender is more than not teachers?
Okay, I can see that.
That plays out more often than not.
But how I was looking at it was like, when you broke that example down, I looked at it like a woman, because I feel like women do, like a woman having more money than a man per se. That's how I looked at it.
So you're looking at based upon that
exactly.
Specific.
I was looking
scenario.
at it like that because I don't think, I mean, men do it, but I don't think men necessarily look at tangible items when it comes into being in a relationship. I feel like women do look at tangible items, because at the end of the day, when women have kids and they're not able to work, they do need some. Because I mean, there is an obvious gender, like, I mean, of course there's differences. There's a bridging, but women don't always.
You wouldn't feel body parts are tangible items? You said look at tangible items.
Like cars, houses, money, material possessions.
Okay. But then again, body parts are material possessions. Yeah. Just picking on Josh. Go ahead.
So, you guys,
I want him to finish his thought.
No, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
I was saying I was breaking like my view down based off of like woman with money looking at man that may necessarily not have money,
like you said.
Yeah. So
that's based on a concept of hypergamy. I've never actually said the word, but I read it. So the concept, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah.
The concept that men they either date across and down in terms of like social status or financial status, and women tend to date across and up. Mm-hmm. And you invert that, and you don't really see that too often, which is just be illustrated into terms of occupation. Yeah. Not saying you can equate somebody's worth to their occupation, because you always have to add disclaimers for that. Yeah. Apparently, but just illustrating a principle based on fact of how much money, if you want to just break it down to that to illustrate a point.
Yeah, I feel like men though, it's like definitely a pride thing.
Absolutely,
like the ego.
Yeah,
and I feel like egos in the sense are like very, very irrational, but they feel rational to us.
I feel like there's no room for ego in a relationship.
There's not. That's why I said like before we break ourselves down and actually understand why a ego is irrational, it feels perfectly rational to us in the moment, because it's what makes us feel good. Like the concept of like having your ego fulfilled, you're chasing that kind of like when we had the mental health talk, like the dopamine, like mm-hmm. you enjoy the feeling of having your ego stroked, and then it becomes to a point where that's like what you're chasing. And then once you kind of realize that like that's not the end all be all, mm-hmm. then that's when it becomes that irrational thought, like of the ego chasing.
That's self-consumption.
Yeah.
So Josh, I have a question for you.
What's up?
How would you feel about dating a woman who made more money than you?
It'd be fine.
Or just fine?
Yeah.
That's all you have to say about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we can say that now, but if you'd asked me that like 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have.
3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah. I feel like, because I felt like it took a lot of like, to be completely honest, it took a lot of me integrating myself, or I'm sorry, not even integrating, like disintegrating myself from like women and conversing with them as much to kind of respect them more. I feel like when you're in like, how can I say this?
The interactions you have with women matured as you mature as well.
So I feel like disintegrating myself with women allowed me to lose the like misogynistic like conscience I had. and it allowed me to like.
I didn't realize you had one.
Oh, trust me. Yeah.
Interesting. Like what? Like
it's just. I think one of the really like
use like
biggest
should be housewives. Like, like, how do you?
Not even like that. Like not viewing them as like equals per se.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like you wouldn't do that.
Not like I said 3 or 4 years ago. Like I
see, you can tell he's where you're at now. It's a process.
He rationalized.
Yeah.
He was irrational at first, but no, I'm kidding. He was rational. Compared to him, he was rational because how he felt was genuine.
Yeah. How I felt.
Are you making a mockery of us?
No. I was saying that he was irrational at first. What he was saying, he was rational at first. I was like, that's irrational. But based on what he was saying, I understand how he says he's rational because he genuinely feels like, I mean, we're not equals. I mean, I'm the slave master, and they're the slave. You know.
This man. Yeah. But the thing is, though, what made me look at it was I could never justify why I felt the way I felt. Like when I would ask myself, why do I feel like I'm better? You can't come up with a sound answer. I think when you kind of like break it down, you kind of see how much more women have to go through in life than what a man would per se like possibly have to go through. And I think because you see that, you kind of develop the respect that is due and owed rather than, you know, the I'm above you mindset.
Yeah. But
I mean, if you had that mindset, period, that's destructive to the relationship.
Yeah. But you also have to think, though, that it's destructive to the relationship when the woman is aware of her worth. If a woman is not aware of her worth, then it's the perfect relationship for a misogynistic man.
Yeah, true.
Like one thing I can say about Sydney has always known her worth. So, like, control never worked. And I used to get frustrated because I could not have control. And I think the more that I realized that women are free to do with their time and themselves whatever they want, just as men are, that's when the coming comes together. Like, I think the easiest way to tie it in, and I feel like this might be both good and bad, is like infidelity. Like, look at infidelity in the sense of like, if a woman cheats on a man, the man is like broken, like, nah, I can never come back for this, I'm done, like it's the worst thing ever. Where that man could have been, you know, sleeping with 3, 4, 5 other girls, but the fact that she did it hits him that hard. Whereas if a man does it to a woman, it hits her hard, but she's able to rationalize and think like,
well, it affects her self-worth. She looks internally. In the same way that a man does, but because they feel the inadequacy.
Exactly.
But they handle it differently. So I was just thinking about, because I hate to use generalizations when I look at things like that, but so I was looking across like people that I know, so like friends who have been in relationships that involve infidelity and cheating, and so I was thinking how the men spoke about it, and then how my women friends, how they spoke about it. And for the most part, actually, I can say I can't think of a single example that was against that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they don't exist, because always there are outliers.
And I use that specific example to kind of tie the ego in together. Like once a man feels like his ego is shattered, like because of infidelity, it's kind of hard to come back to a situation that has made you feel vulnerable. Whereas if you lose the ego, then you're allowed to entertain the possibility of rebuilding and forgiving. Because with ego and pride comes the one chance. And I feel like if you have a one chance mentality with everybody, you're robbing yourself, because you're going to make mistakes. And are you going to hold yourself to that same principle? Because if you're not going to hold yourself to that principle, then why are you holding people to a principle that you can't even follow? But if you do, so
be it. Isn't that a fair thing?
Exactly.
Because so you say that's where ego comes into play. I look at it as more so self-respect. Like I got so much respect for myself.
True.
That if I don't disrespect myself, you damn sure ain't about to do it.
Exactly. And I can respect that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, but
we got to get you a shirt that says that.
What?
That makes sense.
Or interesting.
With the NY on it.
I need one that says interesting too. Interesting. With the NY on it. See, might as well put Tim's on it too.
And a bubble coat.
See, I'm getting the hell up out of here. I don't need this disrespect. But you have an album of the week for us, man?
Dang, we doing album of the week. So one thing that I wish I would have did last week when we recorded was planned for Nipsey's birthday. Nipsey's birthday, if you don't know, was August 15th. So we're going to go ahead and bring it back to a previous album of the week, and we're going to do Victory Lap.
Did he not have more than one album?
He did have more than one album, but I'm not going to... But no, I'm sorry. He only had one album. But he's had multiple mixtapes.
I was about to say, I know
Victory Lap was his only one album, but he's had multiple mixtapes.
I was being completely facetious. I was joking.
Did he not
have more than one album?
And my dumb ass was like, yeah, he had more than one album.
Yeah, he hit the... What's the name?
Nah, he did. So
that's funny.
We're going to go with that.
That's cool. But yeah... Interesting convo indeed. But what do you guys think, though? Are emotions rational or irrational? Comment below, let us know, okay? Also, don't forget about the timestamps, okay? If you want to skip through head of the video, you feel free to, okay? But we're going to wrap up today, and we'll see you guys next time, right? Peace.
Look, welcome to the show. Go and take a seat. Let's talk about the world while taking a sip of tea. A bunch of brothers come together. That's something we love to see. The company can't get no better. We come from running the streets, but we here now. The vibes all good. We survived. We gon' try and show the world inside the minds of some visionary brothers. We only got each other. We don't support each other. Ain't nobody gonna love us. We can talk about the violence, the silence, the Mayans, the stake that the minds and the science, defiance, living and dying and laughing and crying, pure bliss and heartache and quitting and trying. That's real from the heart, truth in the heart. So come up in the future, we just gotta play our part. Can we handle that? Let them tear us apart. Infusion breakdown show. Go and talk about your thought.